All right, Shabbat Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakak Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Aqua for me. Listen, may the blessing of election be upon your house. My name is Brother Akwai. I'm back in here with another quick lesson. And for today's lesson, I just wanted to go through a second part of a lesson I did recently. It's called Anton, Daniels, and Worldly Men, essentially. And something I was just observing, as I was listening to some of the brothers in the camp of GMS Dallas, and one of the things they pointed out was, the fact that this character named Anton Daniels, even amongst other people as well, people who have some substance in this world, essentially, is that one of the things I've noticed is that, because they essentially have a little bit of money, it has made them very, very prideful, right? So that's really the point here, because, I wanted to just add in I guess, my little 2 cents on this, because, yes, the Lord blessed them with, some substance, so on and so forth. But, at the same time, one of the things I've noticed is the fact that they've become extremely like prideful. And what does scripture say about pride? Um, as a matter of fact, let me get it, you know, because I don't want to mess it up, right? So, and I won't make this too long. This is Sirach 10 and 12. As a matter of fact, let me start at 9. Sirach 10 verse 9, it says, "Why is earth and ashes proud? There is none more, excuse me, there is not a more wicked than a covetous man. For as for such an one setteth his own soul to sale, because while he liveth, he casteth away his bowels." I want to jump to verse 12, and it says, "The beginning of pride is when one departeth from the Most High Yahweh, and his heart is turned away from his maker," right? So this is the mindset of a lot of our people. For example, their mindset is essentially, okay, acquire, riches, kind of riches, so on and so forth. Mostly speaking specifically, tangible things, goodies, from this society, right? And scriptures say that money's a defense, right? So I'm not knocking, that mentality, but but really and truly, and what I'm really attacking here is really and truly the mindset behind it, because a lot of people don't have a virtuous mindset when they're blessed with money. Because one of the things that stuck out was that, okay, I have this substance, I'm rich and all that, but our people are still in a destitute state. Our people are still in a very bugged out state of mind. you know the point, verse 13, excuse me, it says, "For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that hath it shall pour out abomination. Therefore the Lord brought upon them strange calamities and overthrew them utterly." Right. So this is the point of pride, because essentially they're in the spirit, of Esau, because they think that they have all this substance, so on and so forth, and essentially they think that essentially they're untouchable because they have, this substance that the Lord has, blessed them with, right? But really and truly, I'm attacking essentially the mindset, right? Because they think they cannot be brought down, they cannot be humbled, right? And this is a very, very dangerous mindset, right? Our people's mindset isn't good when it comes to when they have wealth and substance and riches and so on and so forth, right? So let me jump to Second Ezra. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 8 verse 50, and it says this: For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked with the great pride. And that is the essentially the notion, and one of the things that gets perpetuated in this society is pride, right? And just like the scripture I read before, it's that department from, their maker essentially. And our people don't have a close a relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. They have a very strong relationship when it comes to money, but when they've been blessed with a lot of money and substance and so on and so forth, their conduct is lacking. Their essentially their fear of the Lord is lacking. Their virtues are lacking. All these different things that they don't work on essentially in the spirit, because our people essentially talk about starting up businesses, so on and so forth. And then when you look at a lot of these businesses as a whole, a lot of these businesses essentially they fall and they crumble because Jake is, one, they're not in line with their power. Two, we're under the curses. Three, they don't carry themselves with conduct first. They don't actually have example. They don't have that a healthy fear of the Lord as a foundation, so on and so forth. So when you do have these particular carnal substances, excuse me, so to speak, they know how essentially to act, but they don't have that. They don't have that foundation. They're lacking that foundation. So essentially it's kind of like, you're trying to build this really high like skyscraper and the foundation is all wobbly, right? And when the foundations are wobbly, everything is kind of like, everything that kind of sits on top of that foundation is essentially just it's not secure. It's not something of, it's not, it can't take a blow, so to speak. It can't actually, there's no principles, there's no strong material supporting it, right? So I believe that's Proverbs. Just bear with me on this. I'm looking for, okay, Proverbs 15 verse 16. It says, better is little with the fear of the Lord Yahweh than great than great treasure and trouble wherewith. Hang on, let me see if I could get that in the NLT. Just bear with me 1 second. What's that? Proverbs. Okay, so Proverbs 15 verse 16, and it says in the NLT, better to have little with the fear of the Lord than to have great treasure and inner turmoil, right? So, that's very interesting, because this is what's going on in the spirit of our people. They have a lot of turmoil, because they don't actually have, when they, and even a lot of celebrities, you can hear it in their music when they make songs about these particular things. For example, they might have all these different substance and this and that and so on and so forth, but they're struggling to find friends. They're struggling, they don't have a good, their conscience has been their conscience has been plaguing them because they've done particular things to acquire those riches, right? And this is going back into all of these virtues and conduct, because they weren't rich and they developed a relationship with Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? So they have all these particular things, these carnal things, and they don't know how to handle it. They don't know how to maneuver. They don't know how to delegate, so on and so forth, right? So let me get two more. Let's go to the Apocrypha, actually. Okay, Sirach 40 verse 24, it says, brethren and help are against time of trouble, but alms shall deliver more than them both. I want to jump down to, actually I'll read verse 25. It says, gold and silver make the foot stand sure, but counsel is esteemed above them both. Verse 26, it says, riches and strength lifted up the heart. So essentially the mind, right? Because this is the mindset of our people, this is the mindset, excuse me, of characters like, Anton Daniels, even like a lot of these other celebrities too. Like, you got your Andrew Tates and, his brother, they talk about the color of their Lambos and, it's this and that and the fourth. And, they don't actually have a rich relationship with the Most High Yahweh Bashim El Shai, right? Because, they in the spirit, they're still struggling because they don't have an identity of who they are, because they're out of order. They don't know how to, they don't essentially live a life of purpose. And, purpose of the Israelite man is to, essentially fear the Most High and keep his commandments, to roughly paraphrase. I'll read verse 26 again, and it says, riches and strength lift up the heart, but the fear of the Lord is above them both. There is no want in the fear of the Lord, and it needeth not to seek help, right? So it's so this is very, very important, because they don't have this particular foundation to like keep them whole, to keep the to maintain their character, especially when they get blessed with riches, right? So that's pretty much actually. Salakia, there was one more precept I wanted to bring out. Just bear with me on this. Okay, let's go to okay. There's part of the noise in the background. A bunch of heathens walking around. This is Nehemiah chapter 1. I'll read it in the NLT and see what it says here. It says, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, please hear my prayer. Listen to the prayers of those who delight in honoring you. Please grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Put it into his heart, so his mind essentially. In those days, I was the king's cupbearer. In the KJV, it says, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, I beseech thee, let now thine ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, and to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name, right? So going back into that fear, right? Because what does that create? It creates uprightness. It creates good conduct. You know how to treat your own brethren, especially when you come across the poor of your own people. You don't essentially mock them like a lot of these guys do, like for example Anton Daniels do. You don't ridicule your own people, right? Because your own people are suffering, right? For example, if you see a homeless person, you're not going to make fun of them, right? Because the Lord can easily put you in that particular situation, right? And this is what people like Anton Daniels don't understand. Let me finish this, and it says, and prosper, I pray thee, thy servant this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer, right? And one of the reasons I wanted to read this in particular was the fact that, Nehemiah, and like when you go through his book, like let's just start with his profession, because he said he was the king's cupbearer, and I believe it was Artaxerxes the king, right? So this is during that rebuilding, of that temple, right? And, during this time, he wanted essentially his prayers to be heard, right? Because in this particular time, like Nehemiah was the type of person that had, you can call this job, this is like your you're working like close to the CEO, if you can put it in today's terms. As a matter of fact, let's let me just Google it real quickly. Cupbearer. Just one second. Okay, let me just do this real quickly. It says a cupbearer was historically an officer in the high rank in the royal courts, whose duty was to pour and serve the drinks at the royal table on account of, the constant fear of plots and intrigues such as poisoning. The person had to be regarded as thoroughly trustworthy to hold the position. He would guard any poison in the drink's cup and sometimes required to swallow some of the drink before serving it, right? So this is a person who had essentially, they had to have, some moral uprightness, some characters, virtue, and so on and so forth. And this is something that is not primarily talked about in this world when it comes to so-called like high value men. Not to go too off topic, right? It's always strictly focusing on the outward appearance, how you look, the Gucci belt, the shoes, the cars, the clothing, the six-figure income, the six-pack abs, the 6 feet tall, all these different qualities on the outside. But when it comes to the qualities on the inside, like that moral uprightness, like I just read, they had to be thoroughly trustworthy. This is what having a healthy fear of the Lord produces. It produces these sorts of virtues and character, and this is something that is never and rarely ever talked about in these manosphere spaces, right? So again, one of the reasons I brought this out was the fact that Nehemiah had a high position in this particular time. And yet, for all, he went through the tribulations of seeing his people struggling, seeing the wickedness of our people, imposing usury upon each other. And still, he still maintained a level of uprightness, throughout that time. Right. So this is why I wanted to bring this out as well, because the cupbearer is not like a peasant position where you're fixing shoes or something like that, or you're polishing shoes. This is a high ranking official that we're talking about here, right? But his mindset was the fact that he had a healthy fear of the Lord, and it produced uprightness and conduct and virtue, right? So I knew I said that was the last precept, but I promise this last precept is the last precept. Okay. Colossians 3:16, and it says, "Let the message about Hamashiach Yahushai in all its richness fill your lives. Teach and counsel each other with the wisdom he gives. Sing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs to the Most High with thankful hearts," right? And this is what we do, every weekend and week out, right? This is the spiritual songs that we always sing, and encouraging and behooving you Israelites, okay, come back to the Lord, before he brings his swift judgment, right? This is one of the songs that we sing, right? And the counsel, right? And it's free. The brothers are not out there, the apostles and elders on down, starting with them, they're not out there charging you for understanding or anything like that, like a lot of Israelite camps do, right? So this is where you actually get some serious riches, because scriptures say that riches, well, the carnal riches essentially don't profit in a time of wrath, right? So what we want is to have a healthy relationship with the Heavenly Father, especially in times to come, right? So promise, that's the last precept. But Lord's will, as always, this lesson was edifying. I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakak Kwadash, that honors the apostles and elders, great millstone, for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.